So was there an upgrade?
We'll see what is the issue. Generally, yeah, it happens when it is trying to create a new instance of the database at the backend, right? Then only
Mhm.
it will throw in this error if something goes wrong during trying to create a new instance of that particular database.
Okay.
But I don't generally it comes when we are doing some uh, we are changing this extension dot properties, right? Incrementing this. So generally it appears like this. So I'm thinking it should not come in your case. Database upgrade is in
Last
progress.
upgrade.
Last upgrade phase must and the database must be restored or two servers. Okay, do one thing. Clear this. Go to the your file structure where you have kept your database. Sorry, where you have kept your training app.
Mhm.
Go to Guidewire 10 means previous parent folder. Go to the C drive. Is there any temp folder here?
That will be in users, right?
It should be in TMP. It will be there in the C only. I think your DB drop has happened. DB something went wrong in the DB. Is there any TMP folder here? No, right?
No.
Go to the no, it will not be here. Guidewire 10 training app here. No, right? Okay,
No.
we'll do DB drop then.
Okay, to do 3B drop.
Just a second, huh?
Mhm.
DB drops. Cannot, so you can see cannot delete file not found. What is the error? Cannot delete DB file Guidewire 10. This particular, have you deleted it manually? That temp file.
No, I did not.
Okay, go to that repository which it is telling. Not here. Guidewire 10 training app /db. DB, huh? Yeah. So do one thing. Delete this temp folder here. Here it is. Temp. Okay. Or we'll do one thing. We'll manually delete the entire DB folder.
Okay.
Manually delete and everything which is inside this, right? Yeah, everything. Delete it. Yeah. What's happening? The action can be close the studio and then delete. Delete these two. Now start the studio.
And also, what is the command to see the files, Tarun?
Which files?
I mean, if I want to look for if an ETX file is present or not.
Okay. Control Shift N.
N.
N for
I see.
yeah. So were you able to perform the lab sessions without means only the PC means not the verification, because I know verification you were facing this issue, but were you able to do it from the PCF files also?
No, I was kind of like I was stuck in here, and then I was trying to see why it is failing and all those things. So I did not get a chance, but yeah, I'll try to do it today.
Okay,
So
now
now
you can
just
start
start
the
the
server.
session.
Yes, yes, you can start the server. Always try to just run the server in debug mode. So I always prefer that.
Okay. Any particular reason?
So for development perspective, right, we'll be able to put the debug points and triage the issue. And suppose some error is coming, it will come up with more loggers in the console.
Got it. Yeah, now it's started. So whenever there is this kind of issue, just delete the DB folder.
Actually, yeah, it doesn't happen so frequently. Uh, it's I don't know what has been done in your machine so that why it was occurring. So yeah, if something related to this, if your database is logged, then you
Mm.
can drop the database in your local and uh, go ahead.
All
But
right.
in real time, it doesn't happen. It's in the local setup only, which happens.
Mhm.
Okay, you can just start it and load the sample data again.
Oh, we need to load the data again.
Yeah, yeah, because you have just done the DB drop, right?
Okay. Shift Alt T. So to load the sample data, I need to go to the
Alt Shift T, beside administration, there would be a drop down. So what are Gosu queries? So Gosu queries is also similar to the SQL queries. We have to write the SQL scripts, right? Wherein we'll write some scripts and it will perform the task. Either it will perform the task to view the records of the table, right? With the
Mhm.
select method, or rather we will have update statement and insert row statement where we can update the database values. Similarly, we can do all these operations in we can write all these queries in gosu as well.
Mhm.
Okay, and in the back end, we are doing it in from the coding standpoint, right? We are writing all these queries from the coding perspective. Okay,
Mhm.
but in the back end, when we write such code for that particular gosu code, right, in the back end the corresponding sql code is generated, sql query is generated in the back end and it gets executed.
Mhm.
Okay, so no matter it's built on top of SQL, right? So that's why SQL queries is gets generated in the backend, but we don't have to worry about all those SQL queries. We just have to worry about only Gosu queries. So as a
Mhm.
Guidewire developer, we just focus on the Gosu queries.
Mhm.
Okay, so a Gosu query will contain two type of objects. One is the query object, okay, and another one is the result object. So what is the
Mhm.
difference between the query object and the result object? Okay, queries. First thing is query object. So first step, this is the step one
Mhm.
of creating a Gosu query. Step one is query object, and step two is result object. So take an example of the SQL script, right? So in an SQL script, you write something like select column name, like name, okay, from table name, okay,
Mhm.
and then you will write a where clause, where
Mhm.
something something, right?
Mhm.
So this is the SQL query. Suppose you want to write this type of query using gosu, right? So what you will do, so this select, Okay, so this select comes under the result object. So why we use select here in the Gosu query? Just to print the values,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just to
Mm-hmm.
print the values in the tabular format so that we can refer it. So similarly, a result object is used so that we could get the result of whatever we are querying in the table.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but the query object, this query object, whatever we are doing from here. Okay, we are specifying the table name here, right? So we have to specify the table name in the query object, and we are specifying the where clause is also different constraints we are specifying here, right? After the where
Mm-hmm.
clause, all those constraints need to be identified and need to be added in the query object. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so only the select and the printing of the objects would be taken care in the result object. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so there are some syntaxes which wherein we'll combine these two things, query and the result object, and we will be able to form this particular complete query in
Mm-hmm.
Gosu. So I'll open Gosu Scratchpad to show you how our query object and results objects look like.
So you go to
Gosu Scratchpad. So,
tools
okay.
and go to Scratchpad. Okay.
So this is a main method, right? It works like a main method wherein you can, if you are doing some development, right, you can execute your code here, and in the console, the values get printed. So if you want to do real-time changes, right, you can test your changes. You can test your code from the Gosu Sketchpad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's suppose say, okay, my server is not yet started. I'll start my server. So we have system.out.println, right, in the Java.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, we have this print, we just use print, and then under brackets, we'll pass the string so that it prints that string in the console.
Mm-hmm.
So it will act like a main method, and we can test our code. So like, let me give you an example. Print in string hello world. Okay. So when I'll run this, I will run it in the once my server is up, right? So this button will be enabled, run in
Mm-hmm.
debug process. So I'll click on this run in debug process, then my console will be appear in the down
Okay.
beneath the screen, and I'll be able to see this statement.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever we give here, it will be presented in the console. So similarly, if I want to show the detail of AB contact entity, the rows of AB contact or AB person entity, right? So we have so
Mm-hmm.
many persons include in our database, right? So I want to query the AB person entity. So how I will query it? First, I will create an query object, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I- I'll name it as query obj.
Mm-hmm.
This is the syntax to create. There is a package at gw.api.database
Mm-hmm.
dot query. Okay, so there is a class named query which will contain a method, and it's a static class. That's why we are not creating any object of it. We are directly calling it. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so inside the query class, we have this make method in which we have to pass on the entity name which we are going to query.
Okay.
AB person. Okay. So my query object is done. Okay, I've given the, okay, meanwhile, I'll also mention for reference here the corresponding SQL. Okay, select
Mm-hmm.
star from AV person. Okay, this is my corresponding SQL, and I'm writing the corresponding Gosu query for this
Mm-hmm.
particular. Okay, now I need to write the uh, result
Result.
object. So I have the query object. I'll do query object dot select. Okay, there is a select method on this, so
Mhm.
I'll call this. Okay, so my result object is also ready. Okay, now the my this AB person would contain multiple rows, right?
Mhm.
So if I want to iterate on this, but so this result object would also contain multiple rows of data, right?
Mhm.
So what I will do, I'll create a for loop, okay,
Mhm.
to iterate in the result object.
Mhm.
So it will result in result object. So result object is a, it will contain the array of the AB person objects, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
So I'm iterating through each result and I'm printing the result just to show in the uh, console. So if
Mhm.
I'll add the print statement, right, it will be appear in the console.
Mhm.
And I can, if I suppose I want to print each and every field, then I have to just give with star dot, sorry, not star. So which field you want me to print? I'll see in the result object. Cell phone, date of birth, first name. I'll print first name, huh?
Mhm.
First name. Okay. So first name would be printed once I run this. My server is started or not?
Yeah, debug is enabled.
Yeah, it is still starting. Okay. So this is the query. Once it is, my server is not fully started yet, but debug is enabled, but let it start fully. Then only we'll debug it. Okay. So now let's take an example of one more query. Select, sorry, we are just querying first name here, right? So I'll write first. Here also we'll select last name from AB person,
Mhm.
where here we are adding the clause also.
Mhm.
First name equal to something.
Mhm.
Hmm, Lin. Okay. So we have to write this query. So we'll have the same steps. We'll write a query object. Let me copy it. Okay. So as I said, right, in our, okay, I have defined it in the same name. Okay, I'll define it with some different name here. Okay, so you can see, I have told you, right, if you want to add a constraints, so we have to add the constraints in the query object, not in the result object, right? So
Mhm.
after we pick up the entity, okay, after we have given the entity details from where the query has to be fetched the results, we will put the constraints like with the dot. We'll see what are the constraints available. So we have to compare, right, with the first name. So I'll put compare. Okay. And in the first parameter, I need to give the field name which I need to compare, like AB person. What is the field name? I will
Last name.
compare it with first name, right?
Mhm.
First name. What should be the constraint? It should be equal to, right?
Mhm.
So there is a package named reloop where which will contain all the um, um, comparative operators. Okay,
Mhm.
so let me check what equals. I have equals here in this reloop package. Okay, so I have in the second parameter I have given equals. In the third parameter, I'll give the string name.
Mhm.
So you can just see this how we have written the compare statement here and how we are writing the compare statement here.
Mhm.
Okay, now this part is done. We have to
Mhm.
take care of this part, right?
Mhm.
So for this, we will write a result object equal to query object dot select. Again, it can be possible that it contains multiple results. So we will iterate it with the loop.
Mhm.
And okay, here we'll give some other thing like
So
what
if
do you
you
want me to
want
give?
to get all the records, all the columns in that particular result dot star.
Result dot star will not give me. I'll tell you what dot star would give me.
Mhm.
If I want to show all the fields here, right?
Mhm.
So what I will do here is I'll just let me comment it here. I'll just convert it into two list. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm just converting into a collection all these result to list,
Mhm.
and I'll print this list directly.
So to print the list, you just give the print list
Yeah,
name.
yeah,
You
yeah.
don't loop through.
No, I'll just I just print the list. It will give me the complete list of the items. Okay.
Right.
So let me run this query first. Okay, I'll just make it like this. I'll run the first query first. Okay.
Mhm.
So let's see what are the results. So this is the console.
Mhm.
So you can see these are the results,
Yeah.
which is displaying the first name of all the person entity.
Mhm.
What I'll do, I'll just comment it out and I'll just uncomment this one. But okay, I might not have any result with the Lin, so I need to change it. I'll change it with Joanna. Okay, the where first name is Joanna, so it will
Mhm.
return all the results. Joanna Katie. Okay, so you can see this array. Is this array contains only one element?
So only first name and last name are there in AB contact for that particular record.
Okay, you were
But
asking about all the fields.
yeah,
Okay,
all the
okay,
columns.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Okay, so to print all the column, we would be using some, let me see what we can use. Generally, we do not print all the columns. We'll specify from the GUSU which all columns we need to specify. We'll specify it manually. We don't have any such feasibility here where we can in one go we can print all the columns.
Mhm.
But if you want to see the uh, backend query, right? For SQL query, you can see it like this. You can just whatever result object you have, right, till the select method,
Mhm.
you can just print that directly. So it will print the backend SQL query for you.
Got it.
Okay, which is running
Mhm.
internally. No, I don't think we have such feasibility here in this.
So
So
the question is, we are selecting a table called AB person, but
yes.
the result object when you print, it's going against AB contact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's going against AB contact. Why? Because in the backend we have only AB contact entity, right? And we have learned in the
Okay,
subtype
AB person
sections.
is subtype of AB contact.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in backend we don't have any table named like AB person physically in physical database,
Mhm.
right? We have discussed
Uh,
about that.
in local, if I want to see the database, H2 database, how do I do that?
H2 doesn't have any like a SQL management server is there, right? Studio is there.
Mhm.
We don't have anything So S2 database, we can see it from here only. We don't have any console where we can see the S2 database. But
Okay.
there is a feasibility where we can, if we don't want to use S2, right, we can use SQL as well. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
just for the storing. So if we want to use SQL, we have to define, if we want to see those tables in the tabular format, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the recommendation is to generate an SQL DB and connect that SQL DB instead of using the S2 DB. So how it is done, I'll tell you. So there is the database config.xml file. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so you have to first install the SQL database. Okay, create the database name, and then you need to give the connection logic here. So here you can see we have H2 database, DB type is H2, right? And
Mm-hmm.
the URL also is of H2. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so that's why we have S2 database. But if you want to connect it with SQL, we can do it with SQL also. But there are so many configurations which we have to do apart from this one, means while uh, doing the SQL setup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but S2 database comes default with the guidewire, right? For local development, it's recommended to use S2 database only. For production support and all those stuff, right? Generally, SQL database is used for production support projects.
So even when working, you'll be working on S2 database only?
Yes, yes. In locally, we will be working in S2 database only
Okay.
because it comes in by default with the guidewire, and that's why we use it. We use S2 database. But it
Okay.
can be, SQL can also be configured. If you want to see everything in the tabular format, then we can configure SQL as well.
Mm. Okay.
In my current project, in my previous engagements also, we have in local, we were using S2 only in
Oh,
development projects.
okay. Got it.
Mhm. So that's how it is. Um, this is pretty much about the query.
So when
So
you're
here,
joining, when you're making a join and all those things.
yes, I'll discuss it. We'll come to that again.
Mm-hmm.
So first, let me tell you how to write an and or constraints right here. So
Mm-hmm.
what we have to do is we have to, suppose we want to write an and constraint right here.
Mm-hmm.
So let me remove it. Okay. So I want to write an and constraint on query object. So I'll give query object dot compare. Okay. So this is first constraint. Second
Mm-hmm.
constraint with which I want to and it is dot compare. Okay, so I'll put last name Sebastian. Okay, so now these two constraints are ended together because we have done it, means we have mentioned it one by one. Okay, so whatever the result object will be coming, it will come as a result of and and
So will that be
operation
considered
of
as
the.
and or or?
This is and
Okay.
this is and. But for or, because first it will filter out the results based on Joanna. Okay, then on top of these results, it will filter out
Mm-hmm.
the results based on Sebastian. So it is ending these two constraints together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but if we want to have or constraint, right, suppose we want to have this as a or constraint, so what we will write is, I will, let me just comment it. I'll write an or constraints. I'll write a query object dot or. So there is a or method which, okay, and then I'll give the uh, just a second. I'll explain you what I'm doing. So this is how I need to make it or. So we are using the concept of blocks here. So or in query object, or is a method. Okay, or is a method in a query object which will take an expression in the parameter.
Mhm.
Okay, so expression as in what? So you can see here we have elt dot, okay, elt, sorry. Okay, so we are defining this elt here, right? This is the definition. With the use of elt, right, we can write the comparison logic in the or statement.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is gosu block actually. Okay, and this or is the state or is a method in query object which use gosu blocks. So if you want to write an or condition, right, we can write it in the gosu blocks, which will use the any variable. You can give any name of the variable here. We are using elt here. Okay, and with that with the help of that variable you can define the or conditions in the braces. So whatever is mentioned in the braces, it will take as an or condition here.
Mhm.
Okay, so there is a syntax for gosu blocks. Gosu blocks are used a lot in multiple places. The syntax of the gosu block is, uh, suppose let's say in this example, or is a method which is taking gosu block in the parameters, right? So the
Mhm.
syntax of the gosu block is round braces, opening the round braces, backward slash, variable name, any variable name. Generally
Mhm.
by default we use elt, but we can, it can be any variable name.
Mhm.
Okay, then dash, okay, sorry, sorry, my keyboard is, okay, variable name. Hmm. So this is the syntax of gosu block.
Mhm.
Okay, so here in this curly brace, right, we can write our code inside this curly braces, and with the round braces we define the gosu block. So here you can see here, right, we have defined the gosu block here, where the elt is a variable name and we have defined the condition inside the curly block.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is how we define it.
So all if you want to have a join and all, you do that in Gosu block.
Yeah, we can explore these all the functionalities. Like suppose you want, as you said, right, you want to join. Okay,
So
so
do we have a documentation like to see what all?
actually this join and outer join, inner join, all these things na, these are
Mhm.
advanced concepts. Actually these are not covered in the basic trainings. So we don't we will have the documents of this, all these, and you will be able to see it in the training app itself. So you will not be able to see these documents in the ppts. So
Mhm.
you will be able to see it in the here itself. Let me check. Not here, training app. So in for each repository, right, there is a different documentation which is present. For claim center there is a different documentation which is present in the claim
Mhm.
center repository. Okay,
Mhm.
similarly for training app also there would be a different repository where the
Inside
documentation
doc.
would be present. So like there is a doc folder here present here, right?
Huh?
So you can open the doc folder, you can go to the index.
Mhm.
Okay, so you will search for join. It says claims, it's specifically it's a claim center documentation. I don't know why training app stores the claim center documentation, but these topics are generally pretty much generic, right, for all the applications. So
Mhm.
uh, Yeah, these are the way how you write queries, same for all the application. So you can see there is a this is the
I
Claim
want
Center
if I
documentation.
want to have some help on Gosu scripts or Gosu queries, I can
Yes,
come here and okay.
yes. So you can see here there is a guide, integration guide is there, configuration guide is there. Okay,
Mhm.
let me check features and function. Let me check the so best practices are also covered here. Okay, what best practices you can follow? It's a Bible.
Mhm.
But the basic concepts, right, those are covered in those ppts. So if you want to have a look on the basic concept, so you can just take a look on the ppts and okay know about the concepts. But yeah, if you want to further go something deep, right, if you
Mhm.
want to write complex logics, complex queries, then you can refer this guide as well.
And how often do you write these complex queries in Guidewire? Tarun?
So in
It
guide, but
really
generally we won't be joining the entities a lot.
Mhm.
uh, we the uh, I would say that 70% of the queries which we are writing, right, they would it would be simple queries only. It won't be much queries because we are writing the business logics. Okay,
Mhm.
so and guidewire data model is also a very sorted type of a data model. So we don't use too much of join queries. But yeah,
Mhm.
we I'm not saying that we don't use it at all. We use it 30%. We can say that yeah, we use the join queries. We join different tables and we use that. But most of 70% of the queries are written simply.
Okay.
Okay, so you can control shift F and you can I'll write queries. So you can see from here as well in the from the content itself.
Mhm.
This is the entire document which uh, let me search for join.
Yeah.
So you can see something is written about the join. But I
Mhm.
will tell you from here, from the application side, how we can write the join query. Okay, so there is a join method here already.
Mhm.
Okay, inside which you can give the entity name which you want to join. Suppose there is an AB person entity, right? In the query object, we have mentioned the AB person entity, but the entity which you want to join is
AV content.
AB contact cannot be joined by because it's a subtype, right? It's a super type.
Yeah. But if you go
But
into the
yeah,
body,
we can join that. Yes, sorry. AB contact cannot resolve this method join AB contact. Sorry, I need to make the reference using AB person only. I will make this join with the user because user entity is also having this foreign key relationship, right?
mhm.
As user, assigned user, create you, assigned user. Okay. So if I'll go to this. So only foreign key relationships would be joined, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So I have to make this reference with the AB person entity only. Okay. So now I can write my compare clause here
Mhm.
like this. Assigned user. Now I can write my uh, conditions here as well. Sorry. user what is the entity name? AB contact. Let me check what is the assigned user. Okay, user is the entity. Let me try to directly call AB contact.
Hmm.
Uh, Sorry. Even I also don't remember the exact one. I need to search for it. I need to search for this join query, Chandra. Give me
Sure,
some
that's
time.
fine. That's fine. We can, I mean,
Do not remember the syntax of it.
yeah, we can look at it tomorrow.
Mhm. My studio is also stuck. So that's how the and the or constraints are written. And you in the reload package, right? There are other comparators as well. If you go to the reload package, you can see that there is equals, not equals, less than, greater than, all these things are there. So accordingly, you can keep it.
Mhm.
Okay. So these queries which you are writing it here, right? These are only for read-only purposes. Okay. But you are not doing any updation in the database here, right? So if you
Mhm.
want to do any updates based on the queries which you are writing, if you want to update any results in the database, right? So
Mhm.
you have to write these queries inside a bundles. Okay. So then comes the concept of bundles. Okay. So why bundles are used? Bundles are
For updates.
used for updating the database,
Mhm.
or conversely we can say that bundles are in transactions
Mhm.
used in transactions. So this is when we are saving some data in the database, right? This is also a transaction, right? So
Mhm.
suppose there are four fields. Okay, so let's suppose, say, take an example, there is field, I'm going to the notepad again.
So block is different from bundles.
Yes, block actually gosu blocks, which we have specified here, right?
Mhm.
uh, gosu blocks will be used in bundles. Okay,
Okay.
we'll define bundles using gosu blocks. I'll show you tomorrow how we can define that. Okay,
Mhm.
but these are the two different things. Block is just a syntax. Okay,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
bundle is a concept in Guidewire. Okay, so bundles, you can also first thing, if you someone can ask you that what are gosu bundles, so you just, there is a one liner answer that if we want to define a transaction in Guidewire, we have to define inside a bundle. So a transaction can be, let's take an example, right? When we suppose we are sending a money to some bank account, right? So it has
Mhm.
to be deducted from the payer's bank account, and it has to be credited to the receiver's bank account, right? So
Mhm.
if it is deducted from payer's bank account, then and it has not received in the, some error has been occurred during in
Mhm.
the receiving end, right? So the
Mhm.
complete transaction would be reverted, right? So
Mhm.
first step is not completed. The second step is some error is there. Then first step will also be reverted,
Got it.
right? So if we have some such type of behavior, if you want such type of behavior to be commit the data in the database, suppose we have committed some data in the first or the second line of code, but in the
Mhm.
third line of code, while updating the database, some error has occurred. Okay, it will roll back the first and second line also. And
Hmm.
whatever we were trying to store in the first and second line also, right? It will revert that. So all these three lines, suppose if we want to have all these three lines run together, right? So we have to create a transaction out of these three lines of code, and the transactions are created using bundles.
Hmm.
Okay, so this is a high level concept. So why bundles are used? Bundles are used to create the transactions in Guidewire. So if we have multiple line of code, and if you want to run all the multiple line of code in a single transaction, then we have to define a bundle, and then we run those transaction. And the transaction could be anything. Either it can be a business logic, or it can be something with wherein we are storing the data into the database using Gosu queries.
Hmm.
Okay, so these concepts are used together. Gosu queries, bundles, everything. They are used together while in the real time implementation. So tomorrow we'll discuss more about the bundles. What are the type of bundles present, and in which scenario we'll use which bundle. What are the capabilities of bundle? All these stuff, right? I've
Hmm.
already, I think I've already uploaded Gosu queries. Uh, so you can go through the Gosu queries documents, and then
Hmm.